Welcome to Athletic Ambitions with me, Fiona Carter.
And me, Tom Barlow.
We are here to share the stories of our CASS and Friends athletes, aspiring Olympians and world champions. We will also interview elite athletes and professionals. They will be sharing their stories, the ups and downs and bumpy ride that their journey may have. We will learn how they persevere and deal with setbacks, train and compete at the highest level, and how their mindset helps with every step of the way. So if you want to hear about our upcoming athletes and learn from the best, this podcast is for you.
This is Athletic Ambitions, where every journey begins with a single step.
Neive, thank you so much for joining the CASS and Friends Athletic Ambitions podcast. I'm just going to do a short introduction for you. So Neive is a great friend and CASS and Friends mentor. She helps work with our teenage athletes, mentoring our swimmers and rowers who are incredibly lucky to have her support and her wisdom over the 8-week mindset program. She can really emphasise with what their challenges are, since she has represented Ireland in the Commonwealth Games in rowing and also pushed herself at the elite level. Over the years, she has continued to train, and now she competes for GB in multi-sport events, winning a bronze medal in the World Aquabike Championships long-distance race in 2022. Whenever Neive and I have had coffee or a bike ride together, I feel that Neive has mentored me. She's a very special lady. So Neive, tell us a little bit about your rowing career and where your sport started for you.
Hi, Fee, thank you for that wonderful introduction. I feel a little bit overwhelmed. I'm not sure I feel worthy of it, but thank you anyway. Yeah, so rowing, I started at quite a young age, actually. I was recruited by a school friend who we'd spent perhaps a couple of years standing on the riverbank of the banks of the River Dee in Chester, watching our brothers row. And she was keen to have a go, and she needed a couple of other people to join her in a crew boat. So we were sort of recruited on the basis of being tall, I think. Sadly, my school or our school was a girls' school, and they didn't support rowing. They thought it was sort of unladylike, which is a shame. But we were very lucky in that the King's School had a rowing master that was keen to allow us to have a go, and lent us a boat. And it started from there, really, under the guise of a wonderful woman called Sheila Barrett, who coached us.
Neive, that sounds amazing, and I think it's true for many of our athletes that sometimes the schools don't support the sport that they're really interested in. It's typically the sort of more everyday sports, hockey, netball, football, maybe rugby, but some of the sort of more extreme sports or out of the norm sports are often not well supported at school. So I think those challenges are very similar to some of our current athletes. What other challenges did you face?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think actually you just hit the nail that actually school not supporting makes a massive difference, because if you think about how much sport can be done in school and training can be done in school, if you're still expected to do school sport, then you have to do all your training outside of that time. So, and I know that applies to a lot of the CASS and Friends athletes that do sport, which is non-school sport, but it makes a big difference. So early starts, late nights, trying to fit the training in, trying to fit in your schoolwork around that, trying to make sure you eat properly, you get enough sleep, all of that. You know, it is all a challenge. We were also very limited with equipment, because we were very much borrowing the equipment of the boys. So, you know, that meant that we didn't always have access to the equipment when we needed it at the beginning. One other thing I would say, looking back, there wasn't very much emphasis on female-specific training. It's not necessarily out of step with what was going on at that time. I'm 50, nearly 52 now, but I think we were lifting a lot of heavy weights without perhaps a mind to perhaps our menstrual cycles, things like that, whether we were doing it with adequate technique, correct technique. So looking back, yes, I think more female-specific training would have been good.
I think that's really interesting, actually, Neive, and I'm not entirely sure how much the female-specific training is in certainly I don't think it's really in school sports at the moment. I haven't really heard whether it is too much in the sports of the athletes that we coach and mentor. And if it's not really addressed, then sometimes it can lead on to injuries because of nutrition maybe, or for other reasons. did you ever have any injuries or any setbacks that you had to deal with?
Yeah, I think looking back, I think so. Truthfully, the crew that I did a lot of sort of junior international stuff with, I've had surgery on my back, and all of my friends sadly ended up with back injuries, and I think that is because actually also we were always on sweep, or that's one side rather than sculling, which most they have changed that in rowing, which is a really good thing. Most young rowers will scull first, so it's more balanced. And I'm sure the weight training is far more technical and observed. But yeah, we all ended up with back injuries. And I do also wonder how, as we all know, certainly, females will know that, you have different muscle hormones flooding through your body at different times of your cycle. And when you've got relaxin in your body, then your muscles just won't hold together so well. And you'll have, looser tendons, etc. I'm not medical, but, I know this to be a fact, that there are certain times when it will be better to do power and lifting than not. So we weren't aware of that, and I'm sure that didn't help with some of the injuries that we picked up.
It's making me think we do quite a few community events with our athletes. I might see if our sports physio and our strength and conditioning coach Ben Young can help us with something that's really female specific, because I have a feeling that might be a trick that some of our athletes are missing.
That would be amazing.
We have had some injuries. One of our athletes had a double hamstring tendinopathy. I think the hamstrings ruptured off both sit bones, neck fractures and wrist fractures. So lots of injuries. Injuries do happen in sport, and setbacks do happen. So it is a real big part of sport, and something that we do try to address a bit on our mindset course with our athletes.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the team aspect of your sport, perhaps? And then when there were occasions where you were very much working as a team in a boat with three other rowers, or then you had to compete against them to get a spot on the boat. How was that?
Yeah, it's really, I say this certainly when I'm working with rowers, young rowers, it is quite unusual. I mean, I don't know if it's specific to rowing, but in my experience, it is kind of unusual that you will be seat raced for a seat in a crew, and at that point you literally have to want to, it's you or them, so you give it everything. And but then the culmination of the seat racing might be that you're in a crew with some of these people that you've previously, for the last a couple of sessions, been trying to beat, but then you have to very quickly become, you're not my competitor, you're my teammate, and now I would put you in front of me, or you're doing something for the greater good. So you have to be able to switch between the mindset of it's me, it's you or me, or it's us. And actually that's the one thing that I love about rowing as a sport. I always felt like the sum is greater than the parts, and I haven't really found that in other sports where a combination of people come together. You think of, actually look back at Steve Redgrave with all of his medals. He was in a pair, some of them, but in a Cox's four, and it's very hard to break. They tried different formats at times, and it never really quite worked. There was an alchemy and a chemistry of those particular people coming together, and when you have it, it's amazing. But I think that is something that as an athlete you have to be able to adapt to other athletes, and sometimes it's just a shift in mindset. But
big shift in mindset. So one is very individual, one is very team based. Can you cast your mind back to when you were in those situations, how you helped your mind adapt to those two situations? What strategies did you use?
Yeah, well, I have to say, I wish I'd have had some of the tricks and tools that you teach on the mindset course, because it was fairly rudimentary. I'm not sure that we were really, I think it would have been very helpful to have had guidance on that, because it's very hard. Let's say you're sitting in a boat and you feel like the person in the stroke seat should take the rate up. It's time to go. You want to put a push in. You're literally, but they don't, and you can't go on your own. You have to adapt. So you have to quieten your mind and think, there is a plan, stick the race plan. She's going to go in 10 more strokes, just stay calm. It's literally having the ability to manage your sort of, I don't know how to put it really, to sort of, quieten the voice in your head and tune into something else, which is perhaps a little bit more intuitive, or almost switch off your mind a little bit and just go with the flow, literally. I think rowing is one of the sports where flow, you can actually really feel it sometimes, just the rhythm of the boat, and it sort of takes over. So you actually just slightly quieten the mind and switch it off. I think it's important to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I think rowing is extremely technical, isn't it? Like as a person who I haven't actually mentored one of the rowers yet, but I have read a book about rowing and want to understand a little bit more about it in terms of its technicality. So it's very, very technical, but it's also one of the sports where you have to really, really dig deep and get into the pain cave.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the mindset around that.
Yeah. So I think, well, I'm really biased, aren't I? But I think rowers end up, of all the people I know that started rowing as juniors, they've ended up going into other sports. It's kind of, it's the, they're very comfortable with sitting with a big volume of training, and actually also sitting with discomfort, if you like. Sitting, a lot of them cross over into cycling. That's a big crossover sport. Yeah, I mean, I think, what would I say? I mean, I think the technical aspect actually, so the kids are on the START program now, there's a much higher degree of technical input required. So when I'm mentoring some of the many female actually rowers that I've dealt with, I'm really surprised at what's expected of them. It's tough. I think there are things that they're doing to move through the program that I'm not sure people that I know who've rowed at the Commonwealth and maybe even higher would have been able to do back in the day. So I think it's good that they're instilling it now. But I think it's one of those things, it's probably like if you asked a golfer how to get the perfect swing, or a tennis player how to do the perfect serve. It's not always easy to break it down into the component parts. You do reach a stage where it becomes almost like second nature. And when it becomes second nature, it's much easier to then focus your mind on your breathing, your power output, almost the technical thing. You want it to become something in the distance and focus on the race and what's actually going on around you. I'm not sure if I answered your question there really, but
no, I think that's great. I think we talked a bit about the pain cave. Maybe tell us more about how you get into the pain cave and how you stay there, how you allow your body to be so uncomfortable for such a long period of time.
Well, interestingly, I think it's an odd distance, because normally with rowing, let's say, depending on what the boat you're in and what level it is, it's about a 6.5, 7 minute race. 2,000 meters is the standard kind of distance, the Olympic distance. So it's not a sprint, but it's not endurance. So, for you and I both do multi-sport now, and you're about to do an Ironman, and that's a very, very long time to sit in a place of discomfort. Whereas you sort of think 7 minutes doesn't sound that long, but it is sort of full throttle for all of that time. So I think how you get in, I think it helps being in a crew boat, because if you feel that the discomfort that you're experiencing, so are all of the other people in your crew. They're feeling it too. And if one of them gave up, you'd all be, so you are sort of almost doing it for them, which helps to take the emphasis off yourself. And all the normal things, which is, breathing helps hugely. Staying focusing quite intently on either the rhythm or whatever, or your catches or whatever it might be, part of focusing on, but use the emphasis to switch your mind to a different thing, because yes, just thinking about the pain of every stroke for 7 minutes could be tough. So you're shifting your focus all the time to a different part of the stroke or a different rhythm.
So lots of sort of distraction techniques, knowing that other people are in the same situation, not only in the boat but the competitors as well.
Absolutely.
I listened to quite a few podcasts with Courtney DeWalter, who's an ultra endurance runner, and she looks forward to the pain cave. She just knows it's going to happen, and she just embraces every minute of it. So there's just different techniques. What about technology? So yesterday the women's world record for the marathon was beaten. What about technology? So maybe super shoes have helped in women's marathon running. Has the technology changed much in rowing over the years?
That's a good question. In truth, I don't know, because I haven't sat in a really sort of beautiful racing boat for a very long time. I suspect it has. I know that many decades ago, when I was still rowing, they changed the shape of the riggers, making them more aerodynamic. The trick would always be to find a more rigid boat that's lighter, obviously. I think Yeah, I think maybe the change has come in boats rather than anything else. Actually, what you're sitting, and actually the blades, the oars as well. Making them more aerodynamic and lighter. If you know anybody that rode when they were at university and they're old like me now, it'll be a lovely wooden blade. It's very heavy. And the spoon of the blade that you call it will be a certain shape. It's quite traditional. You see them in sort of old boat clubs, and they're rather beautiful. But it's very different to what a light carbon fibre blade now. So yeah, as with all sports, it's maybe not been as fast as in other sports because there's not really a huge amount of money in rowing. So I think where you get the technological advances, the cutting edge stuff tends to be where the money is.
And where the big organisations who can put that into R&D. I guess as well. What about development in nutrition and data? Maybe now we're using heart rate, we're using monitors, we're using rings to measure our sleep output and how recovered we are. We're eating better. What sort of stuff did you eat? Did you have any advice on that?
So no, and actually looking back, it's atrocious really, because it was literally just carb load, load carb. I mean, the volume. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say that when I started my first job, and that's actually when I went to the Commonwealth Regatta. I was working in London at the time, and my male colleagues were slightly horrified at how much I ate, because I'd come straight from the river in Putney in the morning, cycle to work. So I've done 90 minutes of paddling plus a cycle, and then I'd sit there and demolish, 3 toasted tea cakes, and oh goodness me, yeah. So I think the emphasis was actually always on fueling, probably not as technical in terms of macronutrients, etc., as it would be in other sports. I'm sure that's changed a lot now. It's been professionalized. Protein, yes, I do think there was a big focus on protein, because obviously if you're doing lots of weight training, then you need to get the protein in to repair the muscles, etc. But yeah, I think it was very carb heavy, and that's not always hugely helpful when you're doing a huge volume of training. You need to look beyond just fueling for the next session.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to the mindset course then, Neive, because that's the area where you really help Cass and Friends, and you're a fabulous mentor for us. Talk to us about how you share your ideas with motivation with the young athletes.
Yeah, so actually, I have to say, Fee, I have never had to share motivation tips with the athletes because they are so motivated, and that is the absolute joy of being involved in mentoring them, because you just get, you are just meeting extraordinary young people who are full of motivation. If anything, I find myself more often trying to help them find more balance and trying to help them find ways to sort of relax and keep up with their schoolwork or their friendships or just some downtime, actually. Definitely motivation is something that they have in bucket. Well, certainly the people that I've mentored, they have a lot of motivation. I think where we can help, I mean, we collectively, you and also Debbie as well, and other mentors, is with experience, age and experience, of trying to sort of give them some hacks of maybe sort of time management, or ways of fitting things in to make sure, because I think basically if you're doing a sport that you love and you're coping in other areas of life, then you're happy and you're motivated. I think it's when things get out of balance and there's too much pressure, that's when you need to step forward sometimes and help, not keep the motivation, but keep people feeling positively about it and supporting them.
Yeah, I think you probably experience similar to what I have, which is sometimes they put overwhelming amounts of pressure on themselves. I don't think it's coming from their parents either. I think it's very much intrinsic, and it's coming from themselves, which is what makes them such good, strong athletes. So it's getting them to see things from a different perspective, maybe putting things into perspective, and maybe not seeing sport as the absolute be all and end all, and just having that single identity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Fee, you've hit the nail on the head, really. So for me, sport is a lifelong thing. Yes, of course, you're going to have your best performance. Your best performance is when you're, younger. Although having said that, you and I are both still having a go,
absolutely,
which is wonderful. But it sounds like a cliche, but it is just sport. Obviously, it's not to people who are doing it professionally, and it's not to to the kids that want to get to that top level, performance level, international level, it really matters. But it is important to remember that it is just sport. You will have ups and downs. You will have times when it's not going well. You will have, situations where you don't win and you thought you were going to. And all of that is a big learning. You can always learn something from that. It's not sustainable to be at the top or at a certain level every time. And we know from experience that's not how it works. And so, yes, I think, supporting them with making sure that other areas of their life aren't also being affected is important, and encouraging those other areas of their life that actually will sustain them when it does become pressurized.
Yeah. And so how about you currently at the moment, Neive? You're training really well, and you're going off to the European Championships?
World Championship. Standard distance, aquabike in Spain. So fly out very early on Wednesday.
Yes.
Currently packing, doing all the things that we tell the athletes to do, which is to write your list and be prepared, a week before and 24 hours before, which is that I've learned that from you, from the course, which is a wonderful thing to do. Last race of the season, looking forward to it, but in truth, also looking forward to being through the other side of it. I think, as with, all the young people that we mentor, it's also quite hard to sustain that constant level of, anticipation and the training level. I personally find tapering very difficult because I'm at a stage in my life where sport is perhaps more about the training than the race. So not pushing myself or not going out and training every day is quite challenging for me. So that's another reason why I'm looking forward to getting the race, being through it, so then I can go back to training as and how I want.
Yes.
Which, it's nice.
Really nice. So you, it's all part of the process, isn't it? You love the process as much as the outcome, by the sound of it.
Absolutely. And I think it's, there's a purpose. Competing adds a purpose to the training that you do, but then there is also value in training because you love it and you want to. And I think maybe it's much harder when you're at the performance end, and certainly when you're young and you're trying to fit in every other aspect. All the training has to be targeted and focused and fit in around everything else that's going on. But when you get closer to my age, there is a beauty in being able to think, I will go on my bike, and I'm not sure how, you might be limited by time, but you can sort of just literally enjoy the process of being out on your bike. And I don't ever want to lose touch with that. And I think that's something that you get to, that's the beauty of sport. Even if you've done it at a sort of performance level, you hope that you will always continue to enjoy to do that thing. Lots of people stop, don't they, when they've finished their sort of competitive years, and they stop altogether. And I always think that's a shame, actually, to not be able to enjoy it.
Yes, I see that a bit. Some of the athletes that we started mentoring, we've been going 10 years now, some of them aren't competing or doing much sport anymore. Not many of them. Most of them are still doing some sport. Not all of them are competing at that high level. But I'm always in contact with funders and people who are looking to support CASS and Friends, and I have to find the people who value sport and value what it brings individuals as all-round people. So just as a final question, what would you say is the thing that you've learned from your sports career, or that these young athletes are going to have with them forever? This sort of sport is a metaphor for life type thing, in terms of what it teaches them and what they can carry on throughout the rest of their
gosh,
days.
am I limited to one? Because I mean, there are so many. So first of all, really obviously time management, I think, is exceptional. If you're a young performance level athlete, you will have had to be incredibly efficient with your time, and that's something that's really helpful in life. It's just a basic skill, how to fit in all the things you need to fit in, organizing yourself. I think that's really important. Resilience, as we all know, setbacks, you'll win some, you'll lose some, basically, but learning how to manage that, learning how to not be defeated by that, learning how to learn something, reflect, learn something from the experience and move forward is invaluable. because you will continue to have setbacks in life, and being able to apply that sort of positive mindset that this is just a learning point and it's, you can take something from it, is brilliant. Camaraderie, I mean, if you've been in a team sport or an individual sport, even if it's an individual sport, you still go and compete, you still see the same faces, you're still part of something. And I think that's wonderful. It's a great leveler, isn't it? So when you're moving on in life, maybe going to university or going on to a job, it is a really nice leveler. People people often want to know, do you play an instrument or do you play sport? So socially, I think it can give you, you move out of home from your parents' home and you move somewhere new, you can go and join a club. And that's a lovely thing. So inclusivity, I think, yeah.
I think absolutely. I mean, I've just, as you know, learned to swim. I've met some amazing people in the Tri Club, and through this journey learning to swim. So definitely, I think sport is just brilliant for bringing people together in that way. And as you say, a leveler, and you've always got something to talk about, and it's just fantastic being able to share that journey that you've been on with other people and talk about it.
And I do also think, I'm not just saying this, but I do think I do think employers really value people that really value the skill set that come, or the sort of what's involved. So I think if you have been an athlete at a high level, it does make you employable. I think people know what that you're made of tough stuff, and that you're as I say, time management and resilient. I think it helps. Yeah, I do.
We start off our mindset course, don't we, with looking at athletes' values in the first session, and generally they're all about determination, commitment, perseverance, and really those things that do make them brilliant athletes. And that's why they're part of CASS and Friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
Neive, thank you so much for your time. Good luck at the weekend,
and good luck to you as well, Fee. I'll be thinking of you. I'll be over well before you, but I will be thinking of you as you do your Ironman race. But thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Lovely to have you. Thanks, Neive.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Athletic Ambitions. We hope you found this episode of interest, and if so, be sure to send this to your family and friends who might also benefit. If you're interested in donating to CASS and Friends, the links are in the description, and we'll hope to see you in the next episode. Thanks, Tom and Fee. Thanks for listening to this episode of Athletic Ambitions. We hope you found this episode of interest, and if so, be sure to send this to your family and friends who might also benefit. If you're interested in donating to CASS and Friends, the links are in the description, and we'll hope to see you in the next episode. Thanks, Tom and Fee.